famous.
Okay, you guys have listened to all these sessions all day long. What do you think we should? What do you think are some of the big headline takeaways that we should take from this?
You go first, Bill.
Number one, go after revenue. Sell ads first, that's the easy one. Number two, sell sponsorships. But number three, plan on doing a subscription model. Nobody knows how to do subscription models. The New York Times doesn't know how to do it. So you've got to experiment, and over a period of the next year or 2 years, subscription models are some are going to work, some are not going to work, and we're going to find where the sweet spot is. The Daily got a lot of positive comments about their price of 99 cents a week, so maybe that's where it's going to land, maybe it's not. I was really impressed with what Grant has done at the New York, at the Dallas Morning News, because he only lost 38% of his page views when he went the paid route, which I thought was pretty phenomenal, and I'm sure the subscription revenue more than made up for the ad revenue he lost. So those are the main things. We're moving toward a digital consumption world. I don't know how fast it's going to happen. It's happening a lot faster than I thought it was going to happen. But remember, it's all about coming up with a business model that's going to replace the business model we've lived on for 100 or 200 years. So
can I agree with you and disagree with you? I agree that finding the revenue stream is important. While I'm probably better known as a user than a creator, even though I happen to hang out with a lot of those people who like to disrupt things that we'd like to have in order. And I buy more books than I ever have. I buy more music than I ever have. I buy more movies that I download than I ever have. And I buy more content that is created in the Wall Street Journal. I don't know, though, if the subscription model is going to be the model that we have to. To me, that's, if we're so eager to say that print is dead, why are we so not eager to say this packaged up of all this content into a thing that people have to subscribe to? Why aren't we willing to say that is dead too? Why are we not willing to say we can create content to serve a community that people are willing to buy, but it may not be subscribing to something called the Tennessean that has sports, all these, the across the board kinds of things. They may, and I'm all for. I think the most important thing Bill says is, nobody knows. Let's all experiment. We're all doing R&D for each other, and the New York Times is doing great. But the media companies are going to have revenue streams. We're going to have stuff that we can sell. I just don't know if we know exactly what it is. The music company is discovering by busting up the album that certain people don't make money when they don't get a cut of songs that songwriters in Nashville, this is killing a lot of songwriters in Nashville, because even if you don't, if my song is on an album that sells, I get 10 cents, let's say, per album. Well, if somebody downloads a single, then I don't get 10 cents. That's what Bon Jovi last week said, Steve Jobs is killing the music industry. That's what he was referring to. I don't know if we have in the news business an album that we're trying to hold together that maybe the market is going to say, no, I want it in singles. I want to take the sports and I'll pay you. I'll tell you something I'll pay for. The New York Times, before I pay for a subscription, if they had come to me and said, go to the New York, if you're a registered user, nytimes.com, recommendation engine that I think I mentioned earlier this morning, I would pay, it saves me 10 hours a week, 10 hours a month. I would pay $100 for that before I would pay. here, I guess, Bill, too, I don't want to buy something sort of in the NPR fundraising, like I'm supposed to be made guilty that I'm stealing all this content, or the New York Times has to survive, so I've got to give it money or whatever. You know, the New York Times, more power to them if they can get people to do it. I just don't know if every newspaper in America can.
Yes.
Bill, I was really intrigued this morning when you talked about giving credit toward the purchase of an iPad. That's been kind of dominating my mind
Yeah.
day to day.
You looking
were
for
talking
that,
about
you looking for that money?
No, when you talk about the subscription model, and we see this in broadcast as well, where a report comes from the Napa studios or what have you. You know, when Brent was talking about sponsorship models, you know, I could see a major investor, a sponsor coming in, paying the monthly, yearly subscription to a newspaper, and then having access to that database.
Oh.
And you know, I think that could be a subscription model.
I was just given a year subscription to the New York Times by Lincoln Continental, and I'm sure that they did. Now, I'm going to really disagree with you when you start giving databases to advertisers, because that's the golden goose that you have as a media company.
I didn't say
And
give them the database. They're creating their own database by individuals coming to them and saying, yes, I want to take advantage of the Dallas paper that you're going to purchase for me.
that's a great
I
model.
look at it as
Isn't
a
that sort of what you?
Yeah. One of the comments that's been made today, and it's certainly been a big thing, is Apple's new policy of wanting 30%. And most people, although everyone yelled about the 30% at first, there's not so much friction about that anymore. It's all about having information, getting information from the subscribers that Apple wants to make opt-in. And my response to that is there's all sorts of creative ways we as publishers can get that information if we want it. Why not add $10 per year to your subscription price and then turn around and offer a $10 iTunes gift certificate to anybody who subscribes for a year, not for a month, but for a year. Tell them you'll give them a $10 iTunes gift certificate, and oh, by the way, we need your name and address so we can mail it to you. There's all sorts of ways that you don't have to depend on Apple for that information if you really want it. And most publishers really want that. They want to have the relationship with the customers, but there's lots of creative ways to do that.
I call it the Angry Birds approach. If you want to see how to collect data on your user of an app, just go pay to download Angry Birds, and they hit you up every, well, maybe I play too much. But they have sold $20 million worth of plush toys off the site in the app saying, come sign up for our email newsletter, come sign up for our plush toys, come sign up. And I think their database is probably incredible by just marketing in-app to get people to share information. So just learn from them.
A lot of our app discussion today has been about very large budget products. Is there an instant paper type possibility for in news apps? Is one guy that comes up with something that's really cool?
There are several very smart people who are like the person who did Instapaper, who are working on a version to make sort of who's going to be the we were talking about WordPress, but I would even go back to PageMaker Pro or InDesign, the early days of those. Who's going to come up with that? It's inevitable because not everyone. It's two things are inevitable. One thing's inevitable, that there is going to be high-end needs for the very sophisticated. The other is there's going to be small media companies that want to have very good products at a less price. And a market will develop. Now, I'm going to help Bill go. Bill says he can't find any startup money to fund him to do that, but We could move to the Silicon Valley and probably get a $200 million valuation for that right off the bat. Just on, he's not laughing. So.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to follow that. That's going to happen.
I'm curious your thoughts, and I apologize in advance. It's a bit of a deviation from the rest of the focus today, but about the disruptive effects of mobile delivery on other media, on television, on radio, on non-print related media.
Yeah, this is the next big disruption is not going to be print. The next big disruption is television, and it has already started. And that's why I want to be in the television business. I love disruptions. Netflix is a disruptor. The Netflix $8 subscription, my wife and I watch 2 or 3 or 4 movies a week for free because we use the streaming service. Netflix has reduced the time that we watch network television dramatically. And there's no advertising, and although the movies aren't, at least haven't been released in the last 6 months, who cares? There's thousands of them.
They only have the first 2 seasons of Dexter, though. I want more than that.
And, well, I can help you with that.
Okay, good.
I built a Dexter app.
Okay, great, awesome.
So talk to me later.
Great.
I'll fix you
great.
up.
I just...
A second way that this is happening. The people who own video, particularly these studios and the private people who produce video, they want to extract from you a different fee for every screen that you watch their product on. Consumers, it's just like the music people said, oh no, you cannot have digital music, you will buy our CDs. The consumers simply stole it. And then the record companies ended up by losing big time, and Apple walked away with a big piece of their business, which they could have walked away had they planned this in advance. The movie studios are trying not to go that same route, but they may be headed that way. Let me tell you one little change. Right now, the movie studios tell Apple, you cannot take a movie and send it to Apple TV to watch on the big screen unless you pay a separate licensing fee for it. How stupid is that? But nevertheless, it's because of the studio. So you know what Apple did? Really clever. The iPad 2, you have a separate dongle, and this dongle will let you connect an HDMI cable directly to your TV, and then you have mirror images. So we were talking to Sony the other day. Sony said, well, by golly, we can write our app to defeat that mirror image so they can't put it up on the big screen. I got news for you, Sony. Apple developed that so that that circuitry is beyond program control. Mm-hmm. So now with an iPad, now I realize it's really so yesterday to connect a cable from an iPad to a big screen. But I did it yesterday afternoon, and the quality on my 54-inch big screen was perfect. So that's another. We're chipping at it.
When it's getting around the TV, you will hack that, but you don't think that people will hack our newspaper content the same way? They'll get around any.
I don't. I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, you're right.
And there's, but a movie's different. I watch I sort of listen to the conversations among these guys with beards and long hair in our shop, and they wouldn't say it to me overtly. But they have all sorts of ways to get every free movie ever made.
Let me ask you a question. I was talking to a developer that does a lot of work in the magazine field, and they are actually developing, because they have a lot of publishers who have advertisers who really don't know how to create ads that won't run on iPads or apps. So the magazines are working with this third-party developer that would be like you to help just create ads that are appropriate in the media. Are you seeing that too?
Yeah, there's a company called Medialets in New York that's doing a great job of that. What they do is they stand between us and the advertising agencies. If the advertising agency has flash content, They convert that over to HTML5, and they also convert the ads that are in conventional technology formats over to formats that will work on iOS and Android devices. So yeah, there's an industry that's popped up.
But I think even in on the creative side, like you were talking about earlier, that these people come to you with these designs, and you're like, you spend a lot of your time saying, that looks great, but you're a print designer, and this doesn't. That there are certain kind of ads that that work that wouldn't be apparent to somebody who's designing even banner ads on a website.
Same thing's true.
Really?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Some ads on the iPad are absolutely stunning. The Nissan Leaf ad is just really terrific. There's some really great ads that get good CPMs on these devices. Did I answer your question about television?
Well, yeah, but what about the battle for the dashboard? What about radio and mobile and cars? Have you thought anything about that?
Yeah, no, not really. No, I that's been off my radar.
I will say one of the best apps that I have on my iPhone or my iPad is the NPR News app. It's if you don't have it, get it. It's phenomenal. How many people have it? You can do you can listen to this. You know, I listen to the Nashville station no matter where I'm traveling, just to hear, local voices. But the ability to shift time, to go back and listen to stories that I would have never listened to, line them up, cue them up. To listen to it asynchronously, I guess would be the way we would say it. But you listen to it and you go, I don't know how the local stations are going to exist. I don't know how you tune into commercial radio, and it's ad after ad, and you're used to listening to music on your iPhone or iPod, and you go, this just is not going to work. Why listen to radio?
Yeah. It's just a matter of time before you have internet radio in the car.
Yeah.
Just a matter of time. Just a matter of time before you have the same weather application in your car that you now have on your iPhone. It makes no sense at all not to be able to get weather radar in your car, for goodness sakes. That's where you really need it. Yes?
Bill, what are your favorite iPad apps that you didn't create?
Oh, yeah.
That's a great
question. Yeah, it is a good question. Well, most of the apps that I use that I didn't create are news aggregators. NetNewsWire is one I use a whole lot. I'm just like aggregators because I like to consume a lot of news from a lot of different sources. And I find aggregators like NetNewsWire, I mean, that's probably not the best one. I've heard that Flipboard does a good job, but I haven't used Flipboard yet. But that's where I spend most of my time. Yeah, they do. They do. There's a lot of people that won't use a news application at all because they use an aggregator. Aggregators are more geeky right now. They may go mainstream, and if they're mainstream, they're definitely going to be a threat.
I've been trying to evangelize them for 10 years, and I can't.
You've got some people trying it with commercial apps. There's an outfit jointly financed by WAPO, New York Times, and Gannett called OnGo, where you can get content from each of those publications plus some others in one app, $6.95, but they've got no traction at all. They're not even in the top 200 news applications, and the content on it is it's not very deep at all. So I don't think those guys are going to be able to do it. That's sort of like an aggregator, but an aggregator for major brands.
I have a question for you. Have you been approached by NewsMe or the NewsMe, NEWS.me? It'll be out in it came out of the New York Times R&D, but the folks who own Bitly.com, they did some sort of trade out, and the New York Times took ownership in Bitly for giving them this, and it's going to be an app and a thing, and it's one of these social recommendation engines that's going to be. You know, Flipboard actually, they went out of their way not to say that it was an RSS newsreader when they first came out, because they didn't want to scare people that just hear RSS and don't want it. So, but it works a lot. RSS. I'm sorry, you were going to ask a question.
I was just going to ask if you guys have played with Smarter. It's Smarter without an E, and they don't have an iPad app, but they have an iPhone app, and I'm trying to convince the Washington Post to buy it because it's this Twitter aggregator that there's a view where you can watch your Twitter stream, but you can go to the Smarter view where you only see the links that are being pushed out on Twitter.
Yeah.
So you lose all the noise of what people are saying about the links, and what you get is the headline and the blurb and the photo from the first whatever character count of the news story. So it becomes this news reader of all of the recommendations from your people you follow on Twitter. And I have found now that I am going there first to get my news stream. So it's basically, it's a stripped down
But the idea basically is what Flipboard is trying to do, but they're presenting it in a magazine format where you're getting.
I just want the wire.
I'm with you. I like the little designy stuff. Give me the. I like the NetNewsWire look or the Google Reader. I don't. There's a site, an app called Reader.com or not Reader.com. Reader that is a overlay of Google Reader that organizes it a little bit.
How do you get news from Twitter? I don't get that.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess everybody in my stream, for the most part, I mean, it's a lot of news people, so.
Well, that's true.
You
That's
have
true.
two.
Getting all these.
That's true.
There's two ways,
Yeah.
really.
Following all the news.
Right. There's every newspaper in the United States has multiple streams that they're just pumping out links to their articles. Plus, if you follow people of like mind or interest, the best ones are. There's always some curator in the group that covers, the links.
Yeah, and I think
So.
the best way too is that I start following lists that like Washington Post will make a
Absolutely.
list of the people that are tweeting in Libya that we feel like are giving us the best information. So I can instantly follow 18 people that are either on the ground in Libya or that are putting out good information about it. And so, and for all of the Mideast stuff, I can tell you, and particularly in Libya, Twitter was 30 minutes faster than The Wire. I clocked it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Twitter lists are incredible things that a lot of people don't recognize. Like I'm on like several lists of people named Rex on Twitter, or like what that has to do. I have one question. I have one thing about TV that you mentioned. That next week, I don't know how many people have seen. CBS has declared Twitter Week on CBS, and every one of their programs. They have recognized, like unlike you and me who don't want to watch real-time TV, that if people think of a TV show as a social experience, and they realize that they get a ratings bump if people are tweeting about it because they have to watch it live.
Right.
So next week, every one of their programs are going to have, like one of the actors or one of the people will be tweeting real time as the episode goes, sort of as a director's notes or something so that you can be in a conversation about the show with an actor or multiple actors to see if they can use Twitter to disrupt the disruptors and go back to something that's like TiVo, to make it more of a social thing. So.
Probably have time for maybe one more question.
Yes.
I'm surprised that Facebook hasn't mentioned very much here today. I mean, where do you think it's going to go? Because I think Facebook is more important than Twitter because it's across the network. You see more information on Facebook than that, but Twitter's been the word that's much more important. I don't have a question. I just have a comment.
I agree. It goes without saying. I mean, I have a 23-year-old, a 20-year-old. My 20-year-old thinks that Facebook is a place where he lives. It's not about communicating. It's about where he lives. So everything that someone who is in high school now, at least until they realize that they're living in a false, sort of a Truman-esque world, that the real world is more like the real web with mean people and whatever. And I heard someone on NPR describing it this morning. It's like it's the suburban neighborhood where the grass is cut and everything is okay, and people don't really talk to you because you can just turn them off, So I obviously everybody for a long time is going to have a lot of their online identity managed on that, and a lot of their relationships. And as publishers and media people, we're going to have to deal with them, integrating them. But I think that some of I've never seen the print lasted 500 years, and I just don't know how long Facebook is going to be what Facebook is today. It's going to be around a long time, but I hope that the people who are into it realize there's another world out there other than Facebook. I'm kind of worried about my son, though.
Thoughts, Bill?
Pardon me?
Any thoughts on Facebook?
Facebook passed me by. Sorry. I mean, I understand Facebook. I get it. I've got a Facebook page I updated every 90 days religiously. Every 90 days, I promise. I've got a calendar reminder.
I know. Look, my birthday was earlier this week. If for no other reason than that wonderful, warm feeling you get from hearing from somebody you haven't heard from since kindergarten, wishing you a happy birthday, that's why I would stay on Facebook.
Yeah.
Jack Lale wished me a happy birthday. So.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jack. Good to see you, Jack.
You're still wired up here.